Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to cover ways to divide, and I'm going to kind of break down the different division strategies that we already know and just kind of review what we did last year. This is a good way to kind of understand the concept of division and just kind of understand briefly long division and the division box method that we've been practicing. So to start off, we're going to cover what is division. Division can be broken down because it's just repeated subtraction that breaks a number apart into equal groups. It's really important to know that division is repeated subtraction. So our answers are always going to be smaller than the total we start with. But before we can get into the ways to divide, I want us to kind of look at the different division vocabulary that we need to know. So I have a division equation written right up here. We're doing 20 divided by 3, which is going to equal 6 remainder 2. And this is some important vocabulary to know. The total that is being divided, the biggest number we will see in a division problem, is called the dividend. And the dividend is being divided by the divisor. So the divisor is the number that you divide by. You have, after you've divided, your answer to the division problem is called the quotient. And it's important to remember that the quotient includes the remainder. Although you will not always have a remainder in a division problem, you might see it as a fraction or a decimal, but you might sometimes see a remainder to start. After you have that, the remainder, again, which you might have, you'll normally see it written with a lowercase r, a capital R, or the word remainder. You will see that as R2, and it's right there because whenever you divide 20 by 3, there's 2 left over, and the most you can make is 6 equal, having 6 in each group. So some different division strategies that we know, and I'm going to go through today, are putting things into equal groups, using an array, using a tally chart, skip counting, and then 2 brief reviews of the division box method and long division. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with some simple division problems today. The first division problem we have is 15 divided by 3. So our dividend, our total, our biggest number is 15. So I should not see any more than 15 dots total here. And we are putting them into 3 equal groups. So our divisor is 3, so I needed 3 equal groups. So now, if I'm putting it into equal groups, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put whatever shape I want until I reach my total of 15. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And we have hit our total of 15. So now we just count how many are in each equal group. And I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as long as that matches throughout, we know that our quotient for this problem is going to be 5. Let's try a different strategy. We're next going to be working with an array. So when we have an array, what we're going to do is we put our total number of dots out first. And again, these can be any shapes. I just use dots or circles because they're easy to circle and break down. So I am going to be showing you an array. And again, we have 10, which is our total. So I have my 10 dots, as you can see right here, and we're dividing them into groups of 5. So I'm going to go through and circle groups of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got an equal group of 5 right there. And let's circle another group of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome! We have 2 equal groups of 5. So we know that 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. Awesome. Let's keep moving on. The next way I'm going to show you is using a tally chart. And so when we're using a tally chart, that's kind of like putting them into equal groups. But what I'm going to do is break apart a box into our divisor, so whatever we're dividing by. And again, we're going to go through and make tally marks until we hit our dividend, so our total of 18. So I'm going to go through and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We see that we have hit our total again, so we know our quotient for this problem has to be equal to 6. The last simple way I'm going to show us is by doing skip counting, and this can also be called listing the multiples, because whenever you are listing the multiples, you take whatever number you're dividing by, and you're going to skip count like you would for multiplication until we hit our total. So if I am trying to skip count for this problem, I'm going to start by listing the multiples of our divisor. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, and 8. Now, I don't need to skip count any further here because I realize that I've hit my total. And I can count on my finger now how many times I had to skip count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that 8 divided by 2 gives me a quotient of 4. Those are kind of like the concept of division, but now I'm going to show you how to divide with some bigger problems. So the first way I'm going to show us is long division. And long division is a little bit harder, but it actually saves us some time when we're dealing with bigger numbers. So for this problem, we see that division is written a little differently than how we saw before. We have our total, which is 100, and whatever number is on the outside is what we're dividing by. So we're doing 100 divided by 5. So since I'm doing 100 divided by 5, the first step I'm going to recommend you do in long division is to list your multiples all the way up to 5 times 9. Because I know in a certain place value, I cannot put more than one number in a place value. So I'm going to start and do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. So that takes me all the way up to 5 times 9. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, how many times can 5 go into 1? Well, I know if I have 1, I cannot make a group of 5. So I'm going to put a 0 on top. After I put this number on top, I multiply it by what I'm dividing by. So 0 times 5. Whenever I do that, I get 0. As soon as I put a number down here, I'm going to subtract. So 1 minus 0 gives me 1. But I still have to divide through the rest of the number. So I'm going to bring down my digit in the next place value, which is a 0. So now I have a 10 down here. And since I have a 10 down here, I'm still not done. I need to divide it by what's on the outside. So I'm doing 10 divided by 5. And if I don't know that fact right off the top of my head, I can look at my multiples over here and see how many times it takes 5 to go into 10. And whenever I do, I go 1, 2. I see that 5 times 2 is equal to 10. I'm going to put that 2 right on top. Next, I do 5 times 2, which is 10. I subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. Next, I can bring down this 0. And I have to ask, how many times can 5 go into 0? Well, that is 0 times. So again, whenever I put a number up top, I need to remember to multiply it. So 0 times 5, which is 0. I can subtract this out. And whenever I do, I'm left with nothing. And I have nothing else to bring down, so I know I'm done. And I can always check myself, but we will cover that more in a later video. But I know the quotient of a 100 divided by 5 is equal to 20. And I'm going to box or circle my answer so I remember where it is. The next way I'm going to show you is using the division box method, which is something we did a lot last year, but if you don't remember, that's okay. We're going to do a quick review. So whenever I've got the division box method, I have my long division, but I've broken it up into boxes. And again, I'm going to start by listing my multiples of what I'm dividing by. So I'm going to list my multiples of 2 all the way up to 2 times 9. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. That's my first step. If I'm also struggling to remember my steps, I'm going to remember this little acronym. So divide, multiply, subtract, bring it up, and bring it back. And I'm going to put a comma in between these to separate them. So I start by dividing. Whenever I do that, I've got 7 divided by 2. So I'm going to go to my multiples and see how many times I can put 2 into 7 without passing it. Whenever I do, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. We notice we're not quite at 7, but I can't go one more because then it'd be too big. So 3 is my closest. So I divide. Now I multiply. 3 times 2, which gives me 6. Subtract gives me a 1. I can now bring this 1 up over here. So I have 11. And now I bring it back and start at the first step again, which is to divide. So 11 divided by 2. Again, I look at my multiples and I see what is the closest to 11 without passing it. I know it's going to be 10, so I know I'm putting a 10 down here. I need to see how many times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put a 5 on top, multiply 5 times 2, which is 10. Subtract, that gives me 1. Bring it up, so over here by the 2. And now I bring it back again. So I've got 12 divided by 2. So again, we're going to look at our list of multiples and see what is the closest to 12 or equal to 12. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I notice I've hit 12, so I don't need to find the thing closest to it because it's exact. I've found my division. Now I multiply 6 times 2, which is 12. I subtract, gives me 0. I don't have to bring my 0 up anywhere, so I found my quotient, and I know my quotient for 712 divided by 2 is 356. And again, we'll do some longer videos with some more practice on this, but I just kind of wanted to give you an introduction to division since we're going to be covering it this next week. But now you know. So again, be sure to come back and check out the longer videos on the division box method and long division. And if we're struggling with listing our multiples, just remember to practice your times tables and making those multiplication charts. But that is it for today's video, and I hope to see you guys next time. Have a good weekend, and I will see you tomorrow.